Welcome back. You're watching the AI report right here on News 9. Now, cut back to and jog your memories back to 2019. There was an accident in San Francisco where a 15-year-old child had lost his life owing to an accident involving a self driving Tesla car. Now, 2023, a factory and a robo in a factory in South Korea literally crushed a factory worker, assuming that the worker was, in fact, a box in the factory. Now, earlier this year, in the month of February and later in May, again, China reported a few such incidents where robots have actually, gone ahead and lunged at people, causing them some injury, some harm. And more recently, of course, we've also heard this case coming from a company called Unitree in China, where a humanoid robo actually kidnapped a dozen odd other robos and put them in cold storage, pretty much trying to convince those other robots that they're working overtime and inviting them over for a cup of tea to that robo's house and locking them in. So, between all this horror and humor stories, there's this thin line, and that thin line is how safe are we around robots, and how much should our automation really depend on robotic arms as well as humanoids, which are now increasingly becoming more present in our daily life. Joining me to shed a lot of spotlight on this are two very interesting personalities here. We have Mr. Jayakrishna, who's coming in all the way from Aminov. This, of course, is a robotics company. We also have Mr. Shashank Shekhar, the co-founder of Future Crime Research Foundation. Mr. Shekhar, let me first begin by asking you, these incidents that I just narrated, are these criminal incidents or do these border future crime?
So I would say that ultimately a criminal liability can be put on the manufacturers who are manufacturing these robots. If it is leading to loss of life or loss of property or financial fraud, that we have also seen that there have been cases of espionage where such hardwares or systems were there, and it led to a lot of information being stolen and privacy. So obviously manufacturers can be booked in such cases, and this is how the crime is going to evolve. And since it is inevitable to have such technologies around us, and robotics is the future, robots are going to be a part of our daily life, like we have vacuum cleaners and everything. These are also kind of robots, and we will see them evolving, and also we will see the threats evolving, the crime being done by robots evolving. So this is a part of the evolution process.
All right, part of evolution process, Mr. Jayakrishnan T. I want to understand what are robotics and robo manufacturers, companies like yours, really doing to ensure that the training that these robos receive, the kind of instructions that they follow, and how much of their application should be on the basis of their own biases. How do you ensure that these don't sort of come in the way of robos taking decisions which could be self-destructive or cause injury to others?
In fact, of late, I would like to tell you that we start focusing on slightly more, functional applications rather than focusing too much on the humanoid. But of course, the world is moving in that direction. Like as you could rightly understand that a lot of humanoid companies are coming up, a lot of robots are becoming part and parcel of our daily life, the coexisting and cooperating with humans. So there are a lot of chances of, these kinds of incidents. And we being a hardware focused company, I can explain in that perspective that, there are certain kind of standard norms or standard way of looking at this problem from the very beginning, like when people started thinking of robots and humans interacting and being in the same environment. So there are a lot of ways of looking at it. There is an AI perspective, how to train these robots to be able to work safely with humans, But
Right.
basically, apart from AI, being a hardware company, I would like to tell you that the physical interaction in all of the three or two cases that you have cited, the cause of this accident was the physical interaction, right? So the
Right.
interaction between the human and robots are categorized like, in a factory, if you look at it, is working inside a cage
Mm-hmm.
where you are protected. So only if at all you get into the cage and accidentally confront or interact with the robot physically, then there could be a chance of an accident. So that or a damage. So that is very clear because the robot is not that intelligent enough to understand that there is an obstacle on the way and stop or comply with it. But whereas when you think of humanoids, the new generation robots, cobots, which they are typically called as cobots, they are collaborative robots in that sense, which is able to comply with the external force and take that force inside, and then put that extra energy to the bus, some kind of regenerative. So they always comply with the external environment. That's a standard requirement for the hardware per se. And
Right.
on the top of that, as you said, AI is there to understand the environment, and we can have, sense the environment and understand the context, and then this large language models, also this VLAs,
Right.
vision and language action models are capable of addressing these scenarios. So it's a multi-layered protection scheme
Right.
which is already there. But there can be exceptions, and we have to find out how this regulatory aspect will come into action, and how and all these legal implications, how to handle that. But this will go on.
Right. So let's talk about those legal sort of ramifications and the legal action that can be taken. And Mr. Shashank Shekhar, if you can throw some light on that, because you mentioned that in the case of an accident involving a robo, the manufacturer could potentially be held guilty for permitting that robo to either operate in that environment or operate at all for that matter. But let's say, it's not just the manufacturer of the robo, but there are multiple components that go into it. Everything from sensors to layers of software that sort of teach this robo how to operate, how to do a certain job, and the machine learning and the environment with which and within which the robo actually picks up new skills, that goes into another layer of artificial intelligence. How easy or difficult is it for lawmakers to pinpoint that responsibility and identify exactly which manufacturer or which service provider to hold legally liable?
Absolutely, Karthik. This is the gray area, and because of which uh, I cannot recall anything where such penalty or such punishment was given in past. But we should understand that robots are kind of computers with wheels or with arms, and they're on the move. So it's very
Right.
easy, and it's a complex, as sir explained, it's a complex hardware and software system. There's a
Yeah.
Bluetooth involved, there are a lot of networks involved, there are a lot of wireless communication that happens, and it's very important to patch all these to be updated, and it's a continuous process. And problem of having unpatched a program inside a robot, or a critical vulnerability into it which can be exploited, there's no doubt about it. And we are going to see, like, CCTV cameras are hackable. Similarly, we will see, and we have also seen vacuum cleaners getting hacked, and
That's right.
sending out messages. So in future, robots or humanoid getting hacked, the possibilities are there. But we cannot undo the responsibility of the person who is selling it. Ultimately, the responsibility is the person who has sold the device. Obviously, there's a lot of other companies involved in manufacturing and bringing it together, but ultimately responsibility lies with the person who is installing it or selling it.
Absolutely. I want to stay on this regulatory piece for just a minute more, and Mr. Jayakrishnan, if I can come to you with that, the fact that there are so many layers, and like Mr. Shekhar just explained, that pinpointing responsibility is difficult, but eventually it's the seller who should be and who potentially would be held accountable. But what happens after the product is sold, after it has lived, let's say its 2 year, 5 year warranty, as the case may be, and the device gets hacked into? Perhaps on account of user error, perhaps on account of a security patch not authorized by the manufacturer getting installed in the robo, and the robo goes rogue. I'm just thinking Terminator scenario here. Who's held accountable then, and how can manufacturers or users prevent those robos from actually going rogue?
I'll just, before answering that question, I'll just touch base with one aspect because you have mentioned about how complex a robot is by itself, like having a range of uh, components like sensors, motors, the fixtures, a lot of, and the algorithms. So everything put together. So this cannot need not necessarily from the single manufacturer. Obviously, there are a lot of people, stakeholders.
Right.
If you say about all goes into the robot. So maybe if a sensor goes wrong or if an algorithm doesn't work as expected, some conditions are not taken care of, or maybe like it's completely put into a different scenario. So all these things which was not supposed to. There are do's and don'ts. Even very basic robots, if you sell, there are do's and don'ts. So that is one point. That's a very important point. Second point is that I think it is primarily coming from a kind of uh, perspective that how these robots are looked at. Maybe they are looked at as aliens, or they are actually. You just take a case of a car accident. Maybe brake is malfunctioning. Some drive-by-wire technologies are so sensor can be malfunctioning. So sometimes the
Or it
brake
just
disc
loses
is
internet.
not
It could be as
layered off.
simple as the communication network goes for a toss. You lose internet and the communication stalls. So one system, one component is not able to speak to the other.
Right. I'm not even talking about driverless car. The idea itself is a robot. I'm talking about ordinary car. So it is very difficult. It is very subjective. So what I'm saying is that this is why, because robots are now coming in the shape of humanoid and they are coexisting. So they are looked at like they are aliens. They are separate. So once if you realize that they are a part and parcel of your life, and you develop a culture, you have neuroplasticity. Humans have neuroplasticity, right? They start going to understand this, all this uncanny valley, all these things are going to get vanished. So once if they seen that, they are looked at that perspective, then it is like completely different way of looking at the legal aspect also. I'm pretty sure about that. We have
All
to
right.
co-evolve.
We have to co-evolve, no doubt about that. Mr. Shashank Shekhar, I want to just spitball here and ask you this hypothetical question that we're talking about heterogeneity here. And, that's something Mr. Jayakrishnan is also talking about, that you have to coexist and you have to co-evolve. But should you have to coexist and co-evolve, or in your mind, until the technology has proven itself to be reliable and safe, robotic environments should house only robots and no human beings? I'm talking, let's say, driverless cars or even factory humanoid robots. Should they be allowed to work in an environment where you also have human beings until that technology is totally tested and has proven itself to be completely error free?
Obviously, anything should be made public only once it is tested thousands of time, and we are 100% sure that this is safe for public use and should be bring out made it public. Then only it should be rolled out. There are, which is why government have so many bodies and safety standards, which is quality test and everything, which is pass. Every company has to pass through it. But even then, there are accidents, there are incidents, and going back to the previous question also, uh, about the legality part, even a car manufacturer, if there is a, as sir rightly mentioned, if there is a component failure, the car company is booked in that case. All right, my driving can be bad. If there is an accident because of a driver is held liable. Company has no liability on this. But if there is a component failure, if suppose the airbag didn't come out or the ABS was not working, the car company is made liable. They are penalized. They have to pay penalty, which we have seen. And I think in robotics also, this is the future. This is how it is also going to be treated. And giving the example of cars, since car also go several safety standard and several crash tests, similarly robots also have to go through such tests. and then only it has to be made usable for humans and also in the industries as well. We see a lot of
All right.
dark factories and in China, and those dark factories are perfectly working fine. There are some stray incidents, but these dark factories are the future. So we can't deny that robots. It's not about us deciding should robots be there or not, but I think they are the future, and also without passing these safety standards, and there has to be regular audit, because since these are computer programs, these are all softwares, so these have to be updated time and again. And I think these patches are also we as a user should also be very aware that we have to update them, because it's also our liability to keep them updated again and again, because there will be different patches and different updates for all these programs.
Fair enough. Mr. Jayakrishnan T, final word to you. Are enough checks and balances in place? Do the robots that you manufacture, and you being a hardware company, the kind of tests that they go through before they're allowed anywhere near human beings, is there enough being done by the government? I'm sure you will say that the industry is doing enough, but is the government doing enough? Are standards, safety standards, procedures well implemented, stringent enough to ensure that that lives are not put at stake?
I think actually, Kartik, you are specifically talking about the industry 5.0 robots, that the humanoids and those kinds of robots which is currently there in the experiment stage. So I think
Right.
as of now we have to be carefully look at as from the as an ordinary user's perspective. We have to look at this, and from the government's perspective to understand that, because there are a lot of standardization yet to happen in this regulatory aspect itself. For example, our country may not have, if we look at the import tariff codes also, there are a lot of things which has to be, there are a lot of undefined set of components which are coming in connection with robotics. So I think we have to keenly look at all this and how this is getting evolved, and we have to carefully make each steps to make sure the user's safety and the environmental safety and all these things should be looked at, and we should frame up. I think this is applicable especially for those robots which you're talking about right now, that the breed of humanoids which is now exists. But otherwise, it is already evolving. As you said, vacuum cleaner has already become a home appliance. The autonomous vacuum cleaner robot has become an
Right.
home appliance, right? So this is like, the only thing is that this is seen as a completely different breed. This is applicable for, I agree with even Shashank on one aspect, that this everyone is liable, but we have to study the case by case, and understand who is exactly liable for this. So we cannot just go and just like generalize this. If anything happens to the robot, the company is liable, because there are a lot of do's and don'ts, as I said. So this has to be, these guidelines also have to be studied and understood and adopted to the Indian scenario. For example, if you take the driverless car, if a driverless car works fine in Indian roads, it will work anywhere.
Right.
That is a condition.
That's true.
So
That's
that is
true.
the
And that's a point well taken.
yeah. You can
Well,
copy
gentlemen,
from other countries.
of course, I mean, it's an
Yes.
evolving landscape. The regulations are evolving, and of course, the technology is potentially evolving at a faster rate than regulations. But for now, let's leave it at that. And I want to thank both my guests for their time today to the AI report. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. With that, we will slip into another short break. A lot more coming up on the other side of the break. You're watching the AI report right here on News 9.